Hey there, guys. So, the Harrison Ford series continues. Last week, talked about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and so I was actually originally going to do this one closer to when Blade Runner 2049 is going to be released, but then kind of last minute I decided to swap it and just do it in the order of theatrical release, regardless of whether or not I would be doing this one closer to Blade Runner 2049 or not. So, yeah, I'm doing this one now. I was originally going to be doing Temple of Doom, but just had to, yeah. So, Blade Runner tells a story of Rick Deckard. He's a cop, he's a retired Blade Runner. He gets pulled back into the game, and he has to find, I believe it's 6 replicants that are on the run and retire them. I'm going to start with talking about the cast. Harrison Ford is really, really great as Rick Deckard. I heard the other actors they had for consideration for the role, I believe there was Dustin Hoffman. That's the only one that I can remember. But they originally wrote it with someone else in mind, and then Harrison Ford was kind of brought in last minute, I guess. So he does a pretty good job with it. Rutger Hauer as Roy Batty is really good. He's pretty unsettling at times, honestly. I think this is one of the most iconic sci-fi classic movies of all time. There are like 7 different versions of this movie, though. The version I'm reviewing is the final cut. That's the only one I could really get my hands on. And it's really the only one I wanted to watch, because there are the 7 versions, and seeing as the final cut is the version that is closest to Ridley Scott's original vision for the movie, I mean, there's no real reason to go back and watch any of the other versions. For me, anyways. I mean, yeah, maybe I'll check them out eventually, but from everything I've heard, this is the preferred version by most people, including Ridley Scott and Harrison Ford. So, yeah. I'm going to talk about the atmosphere of this movie for a minute. The world that this movie takes place in, it's 2019, so 2 years away. Probably not going to end up anywhere near where this movie is by then, but hey. This movie does do a good job at making the world feel real, though. It's very dark, grimy, it's raining all the time. It has a very neo-noir tone, and it's very practical. It makes it feel all the more real, and it helps really bring it into this world a little bit more. And that's one of the things I'm worried about with 2049, is that it's gonna look, because from the trailers it looks very clean. This movie is very dirty and grimy, and maybe that just has something to do with the way movies, like older movies, look that were like shot on film, and just the fact that movies that are older do look different, like quality-wise, than movies now, because now we have like 4K cameras, IMAX, just all this stuff that helps get like really crystal clear images captured. So in that, 2049 does look a lot cleaner than Blade Runner, but I still have hope for the movie. Let's see, what else? The effects in this movie hold up very well. Ridley Scott's direction is just beautiful. And the score is amazing as well. I found myself a lot throughout the movie just, like, thinking in my mind, holy crap, this score is amazing. The visuals in this movie, just, like, different scenes, frames, it's all just so beautiful. It looks like you're watching a bunch of paintings, but they're actual, like, moving images. It's basically almost every scene in this movie looks like a beautiful painting. I thought the characters and themes of this movie are interesting. There's a lot of differences in the themes, apparently, I guess, compared to whichever version of the movie you watch. I like Harrison Ford's line in the movie, like, replicants are just another piece of machinery. When they work, it's good, and when they don't, then I can't remember the exact quote. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it. I really like that line. If I had to pick a negative, I'd have to say some of the pacing is kind of slow in this movie, but that's not a huge issue. After watching this movie, I would have to say that this is my favorite Ridley Scott film, and it is my new personal favorite Harrison Ford performance, finally topping Han Solo, which I had never thought was ever going to happen, but it happens because this character of Rick Deckard has a lot more depth than I would say more depth than any other character I have seen him play. Now, I haven't seen every single Harrison Ford movie. Actually, for Harrison Ford being like my second favorite actor of all time, I've seen a very limited number of his films, so that's kind of funny. But yeah, I think he definitely brings a lot more to this character and adds a lot more depth than a Han Solo or an Indiana Jones or a President what's-his-name from Air Force One. So, yeah. I'm going to give my opinion real quick on the theory of whether or not Deckard is a replicant. And yeah, I kind of find myself kind of seeing evidence for both sides and thinking, well, it could really go either way. But in my personal opinion, I think he is just a human. But hey, we'll see if 2049 gives a definitive answer. You could argue that they might, or I wouldn't say this, you could argue this, but they might just cop out on it and make it where, like, he was a human in the beginning of, or in Blade Runner, then somewhere in the 30 years in between, he died and got replaced by a replicant who had all of the memories of the original Deckard, and then he's a replicant in 2049. So then you could make both sides of the theory happy. I mean, yeah, I guess it wouldn't be the greatest twist ever. It would be probably a better twist if we learned the definitive answer for the entire thing. But, I mean, if you're trying to make both sides of the theory happy, that could be one way to do it. But I think that would be kind of stupid, so I hope that's not what they do with it. I would have to say this is one of my new favorite sci-fi films of all time. I wish I had taken the time to see this sooner, but it is a pretty complex and very slow-paced movie, so I would say I'm glad I checked it out now rather than earlier, because I feel like if I had tried to watch it at an earlier age, you know, kids, when they watch movies that are sci-fi, they want a fast-paced story. I probably would have found this movie kind of boring, and then I'd be coming to you guys like, hey, I watched this movie a couple years ago and I thought it was really boring, but then I watch it now and I think it's brilliant. And, you know, now I didn't do that, and I just think it's brilliant. It's an amazing movie. I'm going to give Blade Runner an A+. I absolutely love this movie. It's just great. The direction by Ridley Scott is amazing. The visual effects are incredible. Almost every single frame in this movie looks like a beautiful painting that I would hang on my wall. Harrison Ford does an amazing job. All the supporting cast is pretty good. It's just a really well-made movie. And I'm glad that held up because I haven't read the book, but I've been very intrigued by the book that it's based on. It's called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. And apparently, when the movie was first, like, kind of starting to be worked on, he was very unhappy with the very first draft of the script, and he ended up, because he died before the movie came out, but he ended up being very happy with the final draft of the script, so that's good. I'm happy about that, because I always like it when an author that has a movie based on their book is happy with the movie that's based on the book. Because, I mean, that's kind of the first person you have to satisfy, is the person who wrote the book. Because if the person who wrote the book isn't happy, then the fans of the person who wrote the book aren't going to be happy either. But, yeah. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of Blade Runner if you've seen it. Check out in the description, there's a link to our Patreon page. Make a pledge if you'd like. Our Spreadshirt is in the description. Maybe check out we got a couple of t-shirt designs on there. We are hopefully going to be working on some more soon. And follow us on Twitter at TheFilmGuy16. And yeah. See you in the next video.